coast of Western Australia, far beyond the beaches, far beyond the cities, far beyond the tourist maps, lies one of the darkest crime scenes in Australian history. Not a forest, not a prison, not a remote highway, but a chain of barren islands surrounded by reef and open ocean. In 1629, a Dutch merchant ship called Batavia struck those reefs. More than 300 people survived. Most believed their greatest threat was the sea. They were wrong, because among the survivors was a man, Hieronymus Cornelis, a failed merchant, a religious radical, and a man whose ambitions would soon transform a shipwreck into one of the bloodiest mutinies ever recorded. This is Dark Australia. To understand Batavia, we need to understand the world that created her. The year is 1629. Europe is changing. Trade is exploding. Empires are expanding. And one organisation sits at the centre of it all, the Dutch East India Company, known simply as the VOC. The VOC wasn't merely a trading company. It was arguably the most powerful corporation in human history. It had armies, warships, colonies, prisons, judges, and enough money to rival entire nations. Its ships travelled thousands of kilometres carrying silk, spices, gold, silver, and unimaginable wealth. And Batavia was one of those ships. She was enormous by the standards of her day, built across half the world, loaded with supplies, crew, passengers, and a fortune in silver coins destined for the Dutch East Indies, modern-day Indonesia. But from the beginning, Batavia carried more than treasure. She carried secrets. Hieronymus Cornelis wasn't supposed to become one of Australia's earliest mass murderers. He began life as an apothecary, a respected profession, a merchant, a family man, by all appearances, ordinary. But beneath the surface, his life was collapsing. Business failures, financial troubles, personal loss, religious controversy, and growing associations with radical ideas. Ideas considered dangerous enough to attract the attention of Dutch authorities. By the time he boarded Batavia, Cornelis was a man with little left to lose, and history repeatedly shows us something dangerous. People who believe they have nothing left to lose often become capable of extraordinary violence. What makes Cornelis fascinating isn't simply cruelty, it's ambition. He didn't merely want survival, he wanted power, control, status, and aboard Batavia, he saw opportunity. Long before Batavia struck the reef, something was already happening aboard the ship. A conspiracy was forming. Cornelis began building relationships, identifying allies, testing loyalties, observing weaknesses, and slowly, a plan emerged. Historians believe the conspirators intended to seize control of Batavia, murder key officers, steal the treasure, and begin new lives as pirates. It's an astonishing plan, even by modern standards. But aboard a ship isolated in the middle of the ocean, the normal rules of society become fragile. Authority exists only because people agree it exists, and Cornelis understood that. As months passed, tension aboard Batavia increased. Arguments, factionalism, distrust, quiet power struggles. Many passengers likely had no idea what was unfolding around them. They believed they were simply sailing toward Asia. Meanwhile, the future mass murderer was already preparing for something much darker. Then came the night of June 4th, 1629. The sea was calm. The voyage was nearing completion. Many aboard believed the hardest part was over. After months at sea, land should have been close. But navigation in the 17th century was imperfect, dangerously imperfect, and during darkness, Batavia drifted toward disaster. Then suddenly, impact. A violent shudder ripped through the vessel. Timbers cracked. Passengers woke screaming. Crew rushed to the decks. Confusion spread instantly. Batavia had struck Morning Reef off Western Australia. The ocean began tearing the ship apart. Wave after wave smashed against the hull. Water poured inside. Panic erupted. Imagine standing aboard that vessel. Darkness, screaming, salt water, breaking timber. No rescue, no radio, no certainty anyone even knew where you were. For hours, people fought to survive. Some drowned. Others clung desperately to wreckage. Families became separated. Crew lost control. The ocean decided who lived and who died. When dawn arrived, the survivors saw their new reality. Not civilization, not salvation, not safety. Only barren islands, sand, rock, heat, and endless ocean. More than 300 people had survived, an extraordinary number, but survival was only the beginning. The islands offered almost nothing, like little fresh water, little food, little shelter, and no obvious means of escape. The survivors had no idea they were standing at the beginning of one of the darkest chapters in Australian history, because while they were worried about thirst and starvation and rescue, another threat was already emerging. Geronimus Cornelis had survived, and with the ship gone, the rules that governed ordinary life were beginning to disappear. Over the coming weeks, fear would become violence, violence would become murder, and murder would become something far worse. Next time on Dark Australia, the survivors wait for rescue, but rescue never comes. Instead, a charismatic and dangerous man begins building a new society on the islands, one founded on fear, control, and bloodshed. The Batavia story descends into madness, and the killing begins. Until then, keep the lights on, because Australia feels very different after dark.